All right, so let me begin with a question. Just raise your hand in the screen or in the room. Who got Moderna? Who got the Moderna? Anyone? Who got Johnson & Johnson? Anyone get the Johnson & Johnson? Okay. Who got Pfizer? Anyone got Pfizer? Okay, good. And who got Amgen? Amgen? Okay, good. Nobody, because there is no Amgen shot. Okay. Now, what am I talking about here? Obviously, I'm talking about the most incredible medical breakthrough in the history, perhaps, of our country. That is this COVID vaccine that these three pharmaceuticals have put together. And because of this remarkable breakthrough, it means that this pandemic has the possibility of not being as bad as any other pandemic our world has ever seen. I mean, just to give you some context, in the Black Death, which lasted about 10 years, 1346 to 1353, around 200 million people died. And that pandemic lasted 10 years. This pandemic, it's possible for only several million people to die globally and only to last 2.5 years or 3 or 4 years if we take the vaccine. So it is so important that we get that vaccine. So we can thank Moderna, we can thank Pfizer, we can thank Johnson & Johnson. But what I have been thinking about is the degree to which modern medicine has become like superstar status in our world. I mean, you could put them in the same name. You could say Cher, Bono, Madonna, J-Lo, Tupac, and Moderna. Notice I didn't even say which Moderna shot. You know Moderna does make more than one shot. You know Pfizer makes more than one medication, and their most famous medication, you might have remembered, it rhymes with Niagara, but because we can't talk about that, it's a family service. And Johnson & Johnson, a generation ago, you might have thought had to do with baby oil or diapers or Band-Aids. But today we know these modern medical cures, these pharmaceuticals by name. Now, as great as these pharmaceuticals are, and as great as modern medicine is, it leads me to my first point today, that modern medicine cannot cure all the ailments that we suffer from. Modern medicine cannot cure all of our physical ailments, but what I want to talk about today is how modern medicine cannot cure our spiritual ailments, our yearnings, our needs, our deep unquenched desires, our unfulfilled dreams, our souls. Modern medicine cannot cure those ailments at all. And here's the thing, all of us have spiritual ailments. There is not one person on the face of the earth that doesn't have a spiritual ailment or illness. And that leads me to my second point, that only God can cure spiritual ailments. Whereas Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson have come up with an incredible vaccine to cure the COVID virus, they can't come near our spiritual sicknesses. And again, everybody has them. Now, we could go on and on. There's lots of different kinds of spiritual ailments, and if you will, the church is for all of those. If you will, we could put outside of our church a big sign saying hospital for spiritual sickness, because that is everybody who has ever lived has some sickness, and that's all the programs in our church. But I want to share with you perhaps one of the most broad, sweeping, and widespread spiritual sicknesses that I've encountered in my ministry. And I hazard to say that everyone watching today has some of this sickness. And the sickness is crushed spirit syndrome. Crushed spirit syndrome. Now, crushed spirit syndrome is hard to put your finger on, but when people come into my office or I talk to people who are struggling with it, I can always tell if they're a little listless, a little sad. They have an outlook of malaise. They don't want to do anything. They feel like they don't know where they're going. They have a feeling of defeat every day. They have a resignation that life is just one day after the other. Now, I just have to say there is something known as clinical depression, which is different from crushed spirit syndrome. And if you have or you know someone who has clinical depression, you do need to go to a psychologist or a doctor to treat that. But crushed spirit syndrome is what everybody who has gone through this crisis has experienced. And it's what everybody who has ever gone through a family member loss, a job, a career, who've been defeated in a competition like the entire country of England did in soccer last week, who have a confusion about the future, who have a transition between one stage and the other, who have an ambiguity about the present, or who are just lost. All these folks have a degree of crushed spirit syndrome. Now, here's the good news. The cure for the crushed spirit syndrome is one of the most fun and upbeat and easy medicines you can take. You don't have to sign up to go to a pharmaceutical or a Walgreens. You don't have to get 2 shots. I want to share with you the cure of crushed spirit syndrome today. So today is July the 18th, which means that we are exactly 6 months away from Christmas. Can you believe that? Christmas is 160 days away. Whereas 2020 was the slowest year in the history of the world, 2021 is shaping up to be the fastest year. Now here's my big question for you. It's pretty easy. What will we say to one another on December the 25th? Right. We will say, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Now, I've thought about this. We don't use the word merry except for one day of the year. We don't say Merry Labor Day. We don't say Merry Birthday. We don't say Merry Easter. We don't say Merry Memorial Day or Merry Mother's Day, even though that sounds great, great alliteration. No, we only say Merry Christmas, which is a pity, because the cure for crushed spirit syndrome is in the word merry, merriment. And we're going to talk about that in our text right now. So let's take a look at our Bible. If you have a Bible, you're welcome to look in it. It is right in the middle, Proverbs 17:22, or check on the screen in front of you. Here is the mashal for the week. It's the last one we will look at. A merry heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. A merry heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Now notice in our last mashal, the word merry is right there. A merry spirit, a merry heart is good medicine. It is better than any other vaccine in the world. And yet, a crushed spirit will dry the bones. Now, what's interesting, in the first century of Israel, they did not have a very good grasp on physiognomy or medicine. They got a whole lot of things wrong. I mean, for example, they didn't believe that the heart was in your upper left-hand quadrant of your chest. They believed that the heart was somewhere down here in the middle of our bodies. They believed that mercury, the stuff that we put in thermometers, was actually a good medicine and it could cure you. They believed that sleeping in a graveyard could actually cure a person from sickness. They had a lot of wacky medical treatments. But there is one thing that they knew, which is true today as it was back then, that crushed or broken spirits are bad for our bodies. They knew that health is connected to water, and that sickness is often connected to dryness. But the biggest thing that they knew is that merriment, being merry, is good medicine. Now, what does merry mean? It's not a word we use very often. The dictionary tells us that merriment is lighthearted gaiety or fun-making, a lively celebration of a party, hilarity, festivity, cheerfulness, glee, jocundity, mirth. It's all of those things. A merry heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit will dry our bones. Now, if there was a congregation on the face of the earth that knew what merriment actually was, it would be burlpres. I have never met a church who basically gets at an intuitive level how to hang out with one another, how to party, how to have joy. I have never seen a congregation that gets this. You are like a group of hobbits from Lord of the Rings. You know how to do this merriment. So today is perhaps not an information sermon as much as it is a permission sermon. But I do have two things I want to share with you about merriment that I have discovered this last year. The first thing I've learned is that too much information can get in the way of merriment. Too much information can get in the way of being merry. So, as you may know, a couple weeks ago on July the 4th, my family and I went to a little city called Manteca, which is over by Stockton, a lovely little city. We went to this Great Wolf Lodge, which is a water park right there in Manteca. And there's a lot I could say about Manteca and Great Wolf Lodge. The one main thing I would say is avoid the slide that has a 90-degree drop of about 25 feet, and then you shoot out going about 100 miles an hour. I am still getting over that as a 49-year-old. But the other thing that I would say is that if you are going on vacation and you have a dog or a pet and you leave it with somebody who is responsible, don't think more about the pet after you have gone on vacation, which is not what I did. You see, before I left for this little vacation, I was given this little thing that Apple makes called an AirTag. Have you heard of this? An AirTag? They're about the size of a quarter, and the idea is that you can detect where anything is at any given moment if you put this device on your wallet, your keys, your car, your teenager, any of those things. You can put this little device on that thing and you can literally see where that object is from outer space. You can pinpoint to the square inch. So now, for whatever reason, I decided it would be kind of fun to put this AirTag and tape it to my dog Laddie's collar. So I thought it would be fun to see exactly where Laddie was. So I get over there to Manteca and we start to go to the water slides, and I'm starting to go down the water slide, and I decided to check my phone to see the exact location, and I think there's an image of what would show up on my phone. It could pinpoint exactly where the dog was. Now, at first I was full of like, wow, that's amazing. But then by the 100th time that I had checked my phone that day, I had checked my phone during dinner, I checked my phone during our snack, I checked my phone before we got on another water slide, I checked my phone before we went bowling. I was checking the information on my dog all day long. And at the same time, my merriment disappeared totally. You see, too much information can lead to anxiety, which pushes away merriment. Do you realize that at our fingertips right now, anybody who has a computer connected to the internet has access to any book, any scientist, any university in the whole world? Do you realize that you as a U.S. citizen know more about global affairs than any Secretary of State who lived in the year 1900? Just think about our news this last week. There was a coup attempt in Haiti. There was an internal White House memo that got leaked. There was an airliner that crashed in Russia. There was disease variants that happened to deltas around the globe. You were barraged by that information. Now, there's nothing wrong with knowing things. It's just that we need to realize that when we do get information, it will lead to a loss of merriment. There's actually an old phrase that you may have used before. Ignorance is bliss. The way that Solomon puts it is merriment is full of not knowing all the details about everything. But the last thing I want to share with you is this. It's a big revelation that I've made in my life. It hit me like a rock this last year. Maybe it has something to do with turning 49. Maybe it has something to do with the pandemic, but I just had this huge breakthrough moment that merriment is actually a choice. And I realized that I have not had very much merriment or joy or fun in my life for about 20 years. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been moments, and I have had, great success, sometimes failure. I've gotten a lot done, I've checked a lot of boxes, I've put a lot of stuff on the resume. But when it comes to real merriment, I think it's been 20 years. So I shared this with my wife, Star. I said, Star, I realized in my 49th year, I really have not enjoyed my life that much in 20 years. I was surprised by her response. She said, I know. You mean my lack of merriment was noticeable to others around me? Yes. I told my personnel committee, I've decided that for the next 20 years of my ministry, that I am going to spend as much energy and focus on merriment and joy and fun as I have spent in church work. And, this is the personnel committee. I expected them to sort of say, yeah, not. They said, we know that you haven't spent much time in merriment, and we want you to work on this more. It's the greatest personnel committee in the world. So I've been working on it. It's a choice. So about a month and a half ago, I started to try to surf. Now, I am not ready for the North Shore of Hawaii by any stretch. But I will tell you, when I get out there with my friend Tim Engelman and we're out there in the waves and we're with a group of surfers and there's God's creation and there is belly laughter, there is merriment. And I will tell you that, dude, I did barrel on my knees outside a massive session wave for 200 feet to the shore, brah, which is surf talk for I did pretty well. But you know what else? I didn't check my air tag once, and neither should we. God, help this congregation who are so good at merriment to apply it to our crushed souls. I pray, Lord, that you would show us new ways of merriment with one another so that we can be more like you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.